Hello from Southern Ontario. Whoa, that set up there to block the wind noise. Well, it's Monday, September 4th. So tomorrow the trial of Tamara Lich and Chris Barber start. I think this is very, very important to Canadians, what's going to happen at this trial. So I want to lay out a bit of background. Now, I've covered these subject matters and these individuals before quite some time back at greater length than I will here. I'll try to be brief, just to portray who these characters are, prompted by a comment on my channel. Morning. So anyways, let's start with Tamara Lich. The leftists refer to her as a political activist. I think that's a bad thing. Being involved in politics, being concerned. Yeah, they make it sound bad. Political activist. She was involved in provincial politics in Alberta, which is where she comes from. I think when the convoy started, don't quote me on this, I think her activism had largely sort of tapered off. The political climate wasn't really to her character or taste, my interpretation. So anyways, when the convoy, grassroots movement started, she stepped up to the plate. She had the common sense, the smarts, the skills, and people trusted her. She became involved. And when she started the Give, Send, Go, GoFundMe, I think was the first one, GoFundMe, the money poured in at an astounding and alarming rate. And she very quickly said, oh, I hadn't figured on this. And volunteers stepped up, accountants, lawyers. People said, okay, this is big money rolling in. It turned out to be over $10 million. More on that in a second. And they said, well, we got to account for this stuff. And it was accounted for. Leaping ahead at the inquiry into the enactment of the Emergencies Act, it came to light that, now I got to step back a second, the government shut down the Give, Send, Go, or the GoFundMe, I think was the first one, when it had over $10 million in it. A second one was started, I think that was the Give, Send, Go, and inside of 2 weeks it had raised another $10 million. Step back in time, in the first amount, I think Tamara, and don't quote me on this, but I think she got like around $1,000 out of the account and gave it as gas money to some of the truckers somewhere along route, I think out on the prairies. There were receipts. Every trucker gave her a receipt for the gas money. Leap forward again to the Emergencies Enactment Inquiry. It came to light that CSIS, that's our Canadian equivalent of the CIA, some other security agency within the government that popped up like a mushroom, nobody knew anything about, they'd investigated the money. Revenue Canada investigated the money. Every level of government imaginable had investigated the money. Every penny was accounted for. Every penny. And including the Give, Send, Go and GoFundMes, as they testified and said, yeah, every penny's accounted for. There isn't a price of a Tim Hortons cup of coffee missing. And everybody got their money back. The big losers were the GoFundMe fundmies, because they got all the accountant fees and had to give all the money back to everybody. My sister got her $20 back. It also came to light that despite Trudeau's claiming, even at the Emergencies Act inquiry, that it was Russian money and foreign money and blah, 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 well, again, the GoFundMes, I'll just lump them in together, said no. Like something like 11% of it came from outside of the country, most from America, thank you. And the sums weren't large. It was mostly mom and pop type of $20 donations. Remember, they seized that young single mother's account because she donated $20. Anyways, I know I'm off topic from Tamara Lich, but I want to explain there was no nefarious financial dealings in any sense. No way to question Tamara Lich on that matter. She's been accused of, leaping back and forward in time here, a homicide police officer from Ottawa thought she violated the terms of her parole court restraints upon her at a public gathering. And, well, I've covered it before, so I won't hear in detail. They flew out, they arrested Tamara, hauled her back to Ottawa. She was in custody the long weekend last year on Canada Day. Not this year past, the year before, if I remember correctly. Where the judge gave both the cop and the aggressively prosecuting Crown attorney, who's a liberal donator, a big dressing down, sent Tamara home. Where I think it was on that occasion a private individual sent his private plane to pick her up and fly her home, because she's just a working stiff like anybody else. She didn't have $20-odd million at her disposal, as so many people thought at the time, and some of them turnips probably still do. It's the only time she was ever flown on a private jet in her life, I would imagine. I don't know. Anyways, there was no nefarious financial dealings. And as far as being a political activist, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think it's commendable in the way she's been persecuted, prosecuted, and had her life disrupted. I think she's a heroine. My hat's off to her. She's still standing up. And here's the bottom line. If Chris and Tamara and the other people involved in this get sentenced to 10 years in time for mischief charges for what they did illegally, exerting their rights to free speech and the right to freedom of assembly, where's that leave the rest of us? All of us. Not just some clown like me with a little channel. I mean, I've made 1,000 videos. If I've made one slagging the government, what am I doing any different than what Tamara and Chris and Pat and everyone else did? Just to throw some names out there. Well, I didn't stick my neck out as far as they have. I certainly haven't suffered what they have and will continue to. But I'm kind of in the same boat. And so are you. So, anyways, a bit of background on Tamara Lich.